So I'm lucky to be joined by an old friend, actually, Gaurav Dhillon, who's CEO and founder of SnapLogic. And Gaurav and I, we probably have too much grey hair between
us. We do. I wish I had some. I'm losing them.
Well, same people, different discussion.
Indeed,
an important
indeed.
one, which is that, as you saw in the survey, the integration question comes up because people are talking about interoperability and the importance of being able to integrate business processes from order to cash in the cloud. And it's an easy thing to talk about, and as you know, it's a hard thing to do. So tell us a little bit about how you're trying to address that and whether you see that as a phenomenon for real.
Well, it's a very real phenomenon, right? The beauty of cloud is you can build a very good company without a lot of capital, and many good people do. So there's so many good choices. So when you think of that, you've got one end of your business computing changing very quickly into order systems or kinds of help desk systems or what have you. The other end of it is not changing as much, particularly for the enterprise. So it's a very interesting situation where, you're not going to buy one thing, all blue or all red, or whatever the new color is, and that's going to solve all problems for you. You are going to buy a diverse set of things, and you need to now make them work together. So it's an old problem to which SnapLogic has a new solution. And we see it as very real. Our solution to that has been to, first of all...
Just before you go there, there's an interesting thing. Most people don't think about what's changed when they have these kind of problems move to the cloud. Can you give us a little bit of a sense of what's different about the integration problem now in the cloud? Because it is very different. There's orchestration issues, there's challenges of continuously developing APIs and so forth.
Very different, very different. So I like to joke that you've gone from having a tummy ache, as my 6-year-old says, to a headache. The old integration problem 19 years ago, 20 years ago, was you had a... Sorry?
It's a connectors problem.
It's a connectors problem. B, you had a few highly customized applications where you had to worry about the version of UX, sort of the Windows layer, the user interface layer. You had to worry about the client layer, the server layer, and the database layer.
But they relatively moved in a shorter glacial pace.
Very slow, but highly customized. Lots of consulting. 9 times the purchase price of that app was used to customize it for a particular company. And boy, it got heavily customized. So you had like a different kind of problem, but it was a huge problem. Now that problem has shifted to those systems aren't changing, they are systems of record, but the new systems, even though there's less change and customization required because of the innovations of cloud, you still have so many choices. So what's changed is you have a different problem, one of many more endpoints, one of much more data, and the complexity just shifted from a few big chunky apps to lots of very nimble apps. But it's a problem nonetheless. Indeed. Fine-grained problem, but a different sort of problem nonetheless.
And so how have you shifted to adopt to that, and what are kinds of things that you're doing that will make that a reality?
Right, so I think the first issue was dealing with how many apps is somebody going to have? Is it 50 or 100? There was a symposium at Stanford last week, and there was a new kind of software that somebody was showing off that if you bet the CIO how many SaaS apps they have, and then they run the system, and it shows you that it's typically 5 to 8 times as many SaaS as they think they have, right? So
what I was talking about is bring your own cloud service.
Bring your own cloud.
The reality is there's hundreds of them coming.
But the truth is, they don't think they're buying an app. If you talk to somebody in marketing, if you talk to somebody who's using, you say, look,
services,
or even HR. Let's go to somebody in HR and say, how's Workday doing? And they go, what? And you go, the new HR application. And they go, oh yeah, the HR website. Yeah, we like it. So somebody in marketing thinks by using a corporate American Express card, they're turning on a website. The truth is that is as much of an application as of course it is. So the way we solved it is, this took us years to do, but about 2 years ago, we launched the company with an emphasis on a connectivity architecture around snaps, which are these containerization of data into a common data type so you can connect anyway through cloud-based services and technology that lets you do that on-premise, in the cloud, and frankly give people an option value to go towards the cloud and deprovision some of the legacy stuff for which much better alternatives are available in the cloud. Learning management systems, supply chain systems in the restaurant industry, various kinds of apps for recruitment that didn't exist, and so on. So we solved that problem first, went to market, got just very nice install base, companies large and small, mainly large, and then we realized, look, there's going to be a consistency of some information stays behind the firewall. Big data, for example. It's very much an on-premise phenomenon, right? It certainly is, right? In the near term, particularly in the United States, with the bandwidth we have, it's going to stay that way. So if you buy that finance and big data and a bunch of things stay on-premise, and everything else is going on, how do you make the two work? You've got to mix the environment. So we believe most enterprises, companies of over 1,000 employees, are facing a stark hybrid reality. For which
it came out very strongly.
Very much so, very much so. So for which the integration solutions built in the 90s simply don't work. because they're too on-premise, and some of the
Built.
early guys were too cloudy. They had no idea of how to deal with enterprise
Boomers in
problems.
this world, we're not thinking straight about the
Look,
realities.
but they're pioneers, right?
Yeah,
If they
that's fine.
hadn't,
They did great things.
they did great things. They innovated, they did great things. I think some of the technologies they built were very clever, but they were designed for small business and so on. So what we've done and what we're launching today, so it's kind of a big day for me in all dimensions.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We're announcing and launching our Elastic Integration product. It's a next-gen product line, and it lets you partition integration tasks through data planes that can run on-premise or in the cloud. And you have a control plane that has all the attributes of a SaaS application, so you don't have any
Now
software.
you move that control plane to the cloud, right?
It's in the cloud. So you have no software, no versioning, no racking and stacking. So you get the benefits of cloud and get the command control of a on-premise system at the same time. And boy, this was not easy to do.
Sure.
This was not easy to do. We had to deal with containerization and virtualization and a lot of shuns, but we did it. And we've seen, thank you, we've seen people do that in networking, with software-defined networking. Earlier, Pat Gutzing was speaking about the data center and software-defined and everything. And we think that's the way to go. We think that is the right approach, and we uniquely have it in integration. So it's a big day for us, Michael.
It's great. Well, congrats. It's
Thank
good
you.
to have you here
Thank
talking
you.
about it.
Pleasure.
So let's look forward a bit. There's obviously this concern that when you look at the realities of what we've got to move in terms of legacy systems to the cloud, will we continue to just deal with those things and leave them as sort of how we integrate going forward and put all of our energies into the cloud? Or do you see that there'll be continued investment in on-prem systems for things like big data? So in other words, is this a phase we're going to grow through, or is this a permanent thing that...
What is the time horizon? So the question is...
about how long legacy is.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So as we were discussing earlier, as in our 20s, when we were bright young entrepreneurs, we thought that the mainframe would die.
I thought I was young, but you were bright.
Come on, you are very bright. But the point is, we both thought, and we would probably over beer have agreed, somewhere circa 1995, 96, when we would have these hangouts, that the mainframe's likely to be phased out, and we were wrong about that,
totally.
right? So we totally, but the learning that you get is, it's not the mainframe. What happens is the understanding amongst organizations of complex problems. For example, how do you withdraw money from an ATM? Right over there, right? It's touching a mainframe. And the business rules, all the agreements amongst hundreds of banks are codified in the constitution of their program. It's a software constitution. The fact is, it's written way before the web, way before cloud. But you know what? It's going to stay.
Yeah, of course it is.
So it's going to stay. It's a business process. It's a fossil. It's a fossilized business process, and it's going to stay. So I think there will be some growth, believe it or not, on premise, principally on the big data side. Some mainframe growth comes up and down, but the growth on premise is going to be around big data. We see big investments in big data. A lot of that is on premise. And I think with security concerns in the air these days, there may be we want to put all this stuff behind a firewall type of thing. So we'll see how that all pans out. But certainly financials are not going away. There'll be continued investment. SAP has also done a very good job of HANA. So that's going to continue to grow the footprint, etc. So I say modest growth on premise. It's not going to go away, but major growth in the cloud for a period of time. Now, what is interesting to me is, at what point does somebody put ERP in the cloud?
Right.
That's basically...
In theory, it's happening.
In theory.
If you listen to Zach, he believes it's already there. So
It's happening for some companies, and some people are innovating it. But there are certain sets of functionality that are very, very hard to build. A general ledger that manages global currency, multi-party transactions, these sorts of things. Again, the sort of accounting fossilization is very, very hard to do. So how are we going to do that? And so what we're watching really is a way to be able to deal not only with all that, but also the custom applications. When does somebody, an airline...
It's funny you bring this up, but I always laugh about this. There's only probably about 30% of the entire software spend that's packaged applications.
Only 30%.
The other 70% is custom apps.
It's custom.
Or it's either built in-house or by systems integrated.
How can you say that an airline has gone to the cloud if their frequent flyer system is running on-premise?
Yeah, right.
That's their business, right? That's their loyalty program. It touches everything, ticketing, pricing, everything. So my sense is it's going to teeter-totter, and what's happening is when people look at an upgrade, that's when they go, aha, this on-premise stuff is so hard to upgrade. Either driven by... Can't get there from here. So when upgrades come up, they get off HR. When upgrades come up, people will get off their legacy frequent flyer applications and loyalty rewards programs and rebuild them in the cloud using excellent sets of tools and products that are being funded by you and others around the world, right? Because that is the right way to do it, right? You shouldn't just take it up and shim it up into the cloud. You should redo
It's
it.
got to be born in the cloud.
It's got to be born in the cloud.
As we
It's
say.
got to be born in the cloud. And that'll happen. So I'd say between now and 2015, on-premise stays, cloud is exciting. 2015 to 2020, it's probably an era where people think hard about why do we have on-premise at all. And there will be so much more, I think, reasons to get off of it. That'll probably be a slippery slope. I think of it sort of like 1993 to 2000, sort of that the year 2000 rush again.
Yeah.
I think this decade is sort of almost like a middle decade of that trend, right?
And I bet we'll be sitting here in 10 years' time.
We will be.
Legacy here.
Now I know that. Now I know that all systems don't die; they fade away.
Well, great to see you. And
Great to see you as well.
Don't die too.
Indeed. Well, we got to keep taking the vitamins now.